I'd like to welcome everybody to the Town of Southbridge, a joint meeting, Texas Persons and Property, Subcommittee and the Town Council meeting, Monday, March 20th, 2023, 6 p.m., Veterans Room. Agenda item number 1, I call the meeting to order. Agenda item number 2, roll call. Julian?
Present.
Shinya?
Yep.
Montigny?
Present.
Rivas? Absent. Lazo present. All right, moving on to agenda item number 3. Review and discuss the police chief's recommendation to appoint Jordan Witherspoon as a permanent full-time police sergeant. State ethics in good standing. Entertain a motion to vote on to recommend that Town Council confirm the appointment of Jordan Witherspoon as a full-time police sergeant for the Town of Southbridge, effective immediately for an indefinite period. Chief?
So. Second.
Motion second.
Okay.
Sorry about that, sleeping at the wheel.
Mr. Chair, did you want to move the fire guys
No.
to the front? No? Okay, I just wanted to make sure you, all right. I knew if it was Paul, you'd be
I'm doing this on purpose, you know that, right?
So if I could, through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to provide a little bit of history because I know there's going to be some questions. And if possible, I just want to clear up some of those potential questions now. So the assessment center for sergeant was initially approved by the town council on December 20th of 2021. A delegation agreement with civil service was issued 3 days later on December 23rd, 2021. It's good for 2 years, and the reason why these civil service lists are good for 2 years is because it's an expense to cities and towns. They're about $6,000, between $6,000 and $6,500 to the community every time you do a promotional assessment center. The exam was given on March 24th of 2022. An eligible list was developed. Per the statute, we interviewed the top 3 scores for that position. There were actually 4 candidates on that sergeant's test from last year, but they were tied for third. So there's 4 positions, but three ranks, first, second, and 2 for tied for third. We promoted Sergeant Jankos in June of 2022. We now here today have 3 eligible candidates on our current civil service list, which has not yet expired. Interviews were done again last week with these 3 candidates that are left, going through the whole process in accordance with all the laws and the statutes of the civil service for promotion. The first candidate, Mr. Witherspoon, is on the agenda now. Is number 1 on the current list. Sergeant Jankos was number 1 last time around. He was promoted. Mr. Witherspoon is now number 1. The second candidate, Mr. Neal, who's next on the agenda, is tied for number 2. So there were 3 candidates we interviewed, but again, 2 ranks, first and second. 2 people tied for second. So essentially, the next 2 are here tonight that are on deck for promotion. The reason why we're doing it this way, I know I spoke with a few people about some of the issues we're doing it this way, but as you know, we had 2 lieutenants positions that were approved by this board and the town council back on February 27th, 2023. I plan on making acting lieutenant positions immediately once these sergeants are confirmed, which will be next week. I wanted to make sure we had our structure in place. I didn't want to come forward and make 2 lieutenants acting or do anything without having these sergeants in place. Because what would happen is, if I promoted or recommended 2 acting positions, and for some reason this body or the council next week, and I've seen stranger things happen, and you know we've talked about it, if this doesn't go through, if this is denied, I have to essentially take the 2 acting positions and demote them back to sergeant. And that's not going to be good for anybody. So I need to have the command structure in place to do these promotions, and it starts here with these sergeants. By doing sergeants first, again, if it goes tonight, gets recommended to the council next week. Monday night it gets approved on the 27th. On the 28th, I will make or recommend 2 acting lieutenants, which I don't have to do anything with. As far as council-wise, and I'll get into that in a second. In fact, tomorrow I'm meeting with the town manager and the human resource director to go over lieutenant assessment, budgets, things like that. Who's the vendor we're going to use? That's all going to come back to you guys. So if this is done tonight, the lieutenant process then will take a couple months. And some of you have been around and you kind of know the way this goes. These lieutenants won't be permanent until probably summer. But again, the whole big circling back, the sergeants have to be in place. I have to move, if these gentlemen are approved, 2 lieutenants will move up, they'll fall into that hole. Even with acting lieutenants, the promotional process, and I know I'm going to get questions about it, it's still fair, it's still equitable. All the sergeants are eligible to take the test. Just because you're acting doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be the next lieutenant. I'm not worried about candidates failing. Number one, because the people that are on deck to be lieutenant are very well qualified, but that's not really how assessment centers work anymore. Back in the day, like with me, I'm a dinosaur. It was a 50% failure rate on all promotional tests in the state. So if I make 2 acting lieutenants, there's a good chance that they could fail. In fact, when I first became sergeant, they had an acting sergeant in place, and I was betting that that candidate wasn't going to study, and I studied my ass off, for lack of a better word, Mr. Chairman. And I ended up passing the test, and he did not, and that's why I got promoted. So back in the day, that's how you did things. There was a high failure rate. I wouldn't roll the dice like this and make acting positions knowing that there could be a failure, but lieutenants' assessments start at 70, and then they go up from there. I've never seen, especially our candidates, because I know them, I know the quality of the men and women that work for us. They'll be in the 80s and 90s, there's no question. There won't be any failures, and again, assessment centers don't work that way, and that's why I want to go this way. It's a much better indication with assessment centers, and we'll get into this when I bring it forward. But like it's, usually you'd have the statewide test where me and a Boston lieutenant are testing out and taking the same material, and when our jobs are vastly different. Or take even a sergeant here and a sergeant in like a very wealthy community like Newton. Much different responsibilities as far as the sergeant role. So assessment is a much better predictor of if people can actually handle the job. These positions that are here tonight are all budgeted. They're existing positions. We stay at 39 police officers. This is, again, it's about changing assignments and getting better use of time. And I'm only moving forward with this structure because I want to make sure everything's in place before we make lieutenants. So, I'll answer any questions. I know I kind of talked about a lot and covered a lot of ground, but that's where we're at right now, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions?
You covered just about everything I was gonna ask. The only one question is, are those sergeants gonna be working out of pay scale, or are they getting lieutenant's pay scale while they're acting lieutenant?
Both sergeants that are made acting will be getting a lieutenant pay scale because they'll be doing a lieutenant's job.
Okay.
George?
The 2 lieutenants that you make in acting, one of them fails. What happens to the two guys that are appointed Monday night?
Nothing, through you, Mr. Chair. The 2 sergeants, if they get approved and appointed on Monday night, are sergeants, period.
Correct.
Because I need 2 lieutenants either way. So and it will not happen because the assessments,
Okay.
you understand what I'm going to, they will not, even if it fails, it doesn't matter. They're still appointed permanent positions because we need 2 lieutenants one way or another.
So if that lieutenant fails, one of them fails, you got another sergeant that's gonna go in place.
Someone else would step up, correct?
Okay.
Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. My question really isn't about the process. It sounds to me like you know what you're doing with that regard. My question is about the budget. You've been talking a lot about cutting the budget. I don't know how you're gonna cut the budget if you're gonna be doing a lot of promotions and hiring. I look at this agenda tonight and it looks to me like it's almost like a spending spree. So that's my question. How do you expect to cut the budget? Certainly they're not gonna be able to cut it out of their office supplies. It's gonna have to come from somewhere. I'm just questioning where you plan to cut.
And I'm going to answer that question. It's not a chief question, it's a council question. We will cut, but in past years, you never see cuts on the police side. We'd rather have a safe community and maybe we don't sweep the streets. This has been the common goal. We don't cut the lawns as much. When budgets get tight, we tighten up. But with the problems we have in Southbridge, I've never seen deep cuts in the PD, or any type of rollback.
Well, it is gonna be tough decisions to make, but
I don't think
decisions
so.
that are gonna have to be made.
I don't think it'll be a tough decision for council. I mean, if we hand it down, and I've seen other years that if you hand down a level cut across the board to all department heads, and like if you walked in and said 3% cut across the board or whatever percent, then you would have to deal with it at each department. If the council decides what to cut as to going through the budget, it usually, I've never seen any big cuts or any cuts on police side and even fire. It usually gets hit on the maintenance side of the town.
But aren't those the biggest parts of our budget? The biggest
Personnel is always
part of
the
our budget
biggest.
is police and fire, I believe.
I agree,
All right.
but the budget process is on us, on the council. We're gonna have to deal with that when the bad news comes.
All right.
Councilor Dow.
Thank you, Chair, through the chief. 2 comments. You have the best guy tonight here. I don't know what happened. 1, 2, 3. with my respect to the other, isn't it, you say, when we appoint the two, positions, we're not gonna ask for money? You're gonna be even because you're less officer, whatever, you don't need nothing this year for budget, money-wise?
No, through you, Mr. Chair, no, you'll be hearing me talk about it in the budget. I got a budget meeting tomorrow too with the interim TM. No, fiscal year that we're in right now will not be asked for any more money, and because we've been so short-staffed that we have money in salary account. And even going forward next year, and I don't wanna get into FY24 tonight, but I'll sit and explain where the increases are coming from, and it's not from these positions.
Perfect.
It's contractual, that's it.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
No, you answer mine.
If not, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous recommendation to council for confirmation. Moving on to agenda item number 4, review and discuss the police chief's recommendation to appoint Caton Neal as a permanent full-time police sergeant. State ethics in good standing. Entertain a motion to vote to recommend the council confirm the appointment of Kate Neal as a full-time police sergeant for the town of Southbridge, effective immediately for an indefinite period.
So
Chief,
moved.
Second,
motion and second. Chief?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I never got into Mr. Witherspoon's, any of his qualifications. You want me to wait on that till the council meeting, or because you've
Yes.
already voted on it? You're good with that? Okay.
Yeah.
So getting in, for Mr. Neal, who's here tonight, I'll just start by saying he's a Southbridge kid. His mother lived here for more than 20 years. He went to Trinity, he went to St. John's. He spent the last 6 years with our police department. He's got an associate's degree in criminal justice. He's working on a bachelor's, hopefully by the end of the year. He's got 17 years in the military, and he was promoted to sergeant in the military 4 years ago. He does firearms for us. He does field training for us. He went through the process last year for the sergeant's role, stayed in it, put his head in, just like Jordan Witherspoon did. They went through the whole process, the testing and everything else, kind of knowing that they may not have a shot that time, but they were thinking in the future, which kudos to them for going through it for the experience. He's an outstanding candidate, and I highly recommend him for the position of sergeant and promotion.
Discussion? If no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Chief, could you go back to the Witherspoon, and could you read his background, please?
Certainly.
It's unfair to him.
I got you. So through you, Mr. Chair, Jordan is a Southbridge kid through and through. He started with our Cops and Kids program when he was very young. Not that he's old now, but he then, which was great about Jordan, you'll hear me talk a lot about this, especially at the council meeting when the public's really watching. He's the perfect example of what the Cops and Kids program is all about. He started as a student going to the program, and then he became a staff member and a mentor, and he did that for about 10 years. And then he segued into law enforcement as an auxiliary police officer for about 4 years. He worked as campus police officer. He worked with us now for almost 8 years full-time, the last 2.5 as detective. Jordan, like I had mentioned with Caton, went through the process last year, but Jordan also tested out for sergeant back in 18 and 19, which I remember doing it as a kid too, and I didn't have the experience then to do it, but you still do it, because you should never refuse a promotion, you should always take an opportunity. And Jordan did that. He was very young at the time, he understood that, but he did it for the experience. He didn't hold grudges, he kept coming to work every day, never complained. He's got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And I would highly recommend him because the kid is really everything. And I say kid, no disrespect. He's just a lot younger than me. But he came in at a very young age. And I'd like to think that that program somehow influenced his future career, and Southbridge is to gain for it, really.
Sounds great. All right, we're gonna move on to agenda item number 5. Review and discuss the police chief's recommendation to appoint Hector Melendez as a permanent full-time police officer in the town of Southbridge, effective immediately upon successful completion of all medical and physical testing as required by Human Resource, Civil Service, and the state ethics in good standing. Entertain a motion to recommend the council for confirmation. There a motion? Motion by John. Discussion. Chief?
Through you again, Mr. Chan. Again, the next 2 agenda items are all budgeted, all existing vacancies. We're still going to be maintaining 39 full-time people. Mr. Melendez is on our current civil service list. He was a Southbridge kid. Again, he went to Bay Path. He's currently a full-time police officer for another community, which is outstanding for Southbridge because we do not have to spend the, give or take $30,000 to $35,000 to pay and train him for the next 6 months. He went through our hiring process, and this is important for me to note, back in 18 and 19, but at that particular time, we had more qualified people, and Hector went out of his way, went and got himself more qualified, sent himself to an academy. And that says a lot about him, on his own dime and his own time. Hector's bilingual. He was an auxiliary with our police department for many years. He volunteered hundreds and hundreds of hours. We never had any issues with him. He worked at our hospital. And quite honestly, I can't recommend him any more highly than I am to be a full-time police officer for us.
Which one?
Questions?
Hector.
Any questions by the committee? Council Marquetti?
So this person, I believe, lives in Belchertown, did you say? And I think that's a little far away, isn't it? So isn't he going to be required to move here?
Does that mean they're?
Yeah, well, and if I could, Mr. Law, yeah, you gotta understand, and I haven't done the measurements yet, but it's straight as a crow flies. We have a police officer that lives in Tolland, Connecticut, which you think is pretty far, but it's 15 miles, air miles. So I'll work with Hector on that.
15 or 20?
It's 15 miles.
So,
But I will work with Hector on that because he's, again, from here. When he tested out, he lived on Chestnut Street in Southbridge. When he took our civil service test, he's on that list. We'll work with him on residency over the next, give or take, year. But this is a win for the community because there's no cost to us, and it's not. Again, a lot of people think it's like I live in Charlton. It's line to line, Southbridge line to Charlton line. So,
by the way, crow flies.
yeah, in Belchertown, I haven't done the measurement, but I'll work with him on that, and we'll see what we can do to make that happen.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Moving on to number 6. Review and discuss the police chief's recommendation to appoint Cruz DeRojas, is it DeRojas? That's difficult to ask. As a permanent full-time police officer for the town of Southbridge, effective immediately upon successful completion of all medical, physical testing as required by the Human Resources Civil Service, graduation from the Police Academy, and ethics training, state ethics training. Entertain a motion to vote to recommend the council for confirmation.
So move.
Second.
Read a motion second, chief.
If I could again, Mr. Chair, Mr. DesRoses is on our current civil service list. He's a resident of Southbridge now, and he's been here for quite some time. But he did grow up in the city of Malden. He's a security officer. He's a football and lacrosse coach, man after my own heart. My son plays those sports. Bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And if approved, what will happen with Mr. DesRoses is he'll be going to the academy in April with the other 2 candidates that this council appointed a couple months ago, but there was no academy until next month. So there'll be 3 going to the academy, and hopefully we bring Mr. Melendez on board and we get a boost in the community.
Can't go with a black suit.
Yeah.
Oddball out.
You look better than that.
He's younger.
You get a job at St. Susie with that suit. Any other questions? No other questions, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Guys, thank you very much, appreciate it. Be safe out there. Number 7, review and discuss the police chief's recommendation to reappoint Caitlin Jewell as Inspector of Animals in accordance with the provisions of Section 5, Chapter 129 of the Massachusetts MGL, effective May 1, 2023 through April 30th, 2024. Entertain a motion to recommend a council for confirmation. Do I have a motion? Motion by Julian, second by Montague. Chief?
Miss Jewell has been with us for several years, outstanding employee. You guys know my opinions on her. It's just a name change. It's Caitlin Spencer, but she's going back to Jewell, and that's all it is.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Moving on to review and discuss number 8, the police chief's recommendation to appoint Hector Arvello as a special traffic constable for the 3-year term effective immediately through June 30th, 2026. Entertain a motion to submit to council for confirmation.
So moved.
There's a motion, a second? Chief?
And through you, Mr. Chair, I'll just start, so I don't have to say it for every one of these candidates. They all have completed the training. They all have a public safety background, otherwise they wouldn't be in front of you tonight. Right now, as far as the numbers go, if these are approved by council, we'll have 35 constables, but I don't want to go above 30, and we're not going above 30, because the people that are not working, we did a head count, there's 7 that are not working, so they will not be reappointed. So if these are approved tonight, we will be standing at 28 constables that are actually in the community working. We've appointed some dispatchers or some firefighters or some other public safety people that haven't been working any hours, so we're just not gonna renew them. As far as this candidate, he's a Southbridge resident, born and raised. He works for our health department right now. He's a retired sergeant for the House of Correction. He's a U.S. Army vet. He's an outstanding candidate, and I highly recommend him.
Discussion? Council Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. You have a lot of constables, it seems like, to me, too many, really, I think. But the only thing that, questions that I have are, you said that they've gone through the training, do they all have the certificates that are required?
Through you, Mr. Chair, they should be in your packet.
I don't get them.
Okay, they'll be in your Monday night packet.
Well, maybe I do have it here. It says that they all have the
Yep.
certificates, okay, all right. And you all get the prevailing wage?
They get the detail rate for the town, yes.
What is that?
$59 and some change.
59.
You're too old,
Sergeant's overtime rate, right?
you're too old
Yes.
to get it.
Yeah.
So,
It's a sergeant's overtime rate.
I mean, I have seen some of the flaggers out there, and some, what I was reading from the, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the flaggers, state flagger rules, you don't have to appoint a flagger to every single road, correct? If it's a small road, low mileage or low speed, you can waive that. So do you ever do that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, absolutely I do.
Yeah.
Yes, we will not be working on streets in any capacity unless it's needed.
Right, okay. And, last year I was on South Street and I saw they had a big detour sign that was completely across the road. There was absolutely no way anybody could have gone through there. And yet we had a guy sitting there as a flagger. Was that necessary? You felt that was necessary?
Yes, and from personal experience, I remember I had an excavator in the road and the complete road blocked off on Cross Street and Main Street at that sharp turn. And I had an elderly woman drive over the barricades into me and said, can I get down this street? There's a machine, I mean, it was an enormous machine. People, you have to have someone there, trust me when I tell you that, yes.
Okay.
Just from personal experience, that's just one incident.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Moving on to 9, review and discuss the police chief's recommendation to appoint Kevin Arena as a special traffic constable for a 3-year term, effective immediately through June 30th, 2026. And then entertain a motion to submit to town council for confirmation.
So we'll,
Second.
There's a motion and a second, chief?
Mr. Arena has 25 years of service with the state prison system. He worked as an auxiliary officer with us for 17 years, and he donated, thousands of hours over those 17 years. I think he'd be a great fit to come back to the community and work as a constable. I highly recommend him.
Any questions?
He also worked for East Brookfield PD.
Got a question?
Sorry.
Any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Julian.
He also worked in other police departments.
He did. My apology.
All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Moving on to 10, review and discuss the police chief's recommendation to appoint Matthew Carpenter as a special traffic constable for 3-year term, effective immediately through June 30th, 2026. Entertain a motion to submit to town council for confirmation.
so we'll,
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, chief.
Mr. Carpenter is currently a court officer in our district court. He has a strong public safety background. I highly recommend it.
Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Moving on to agenda 11. Review and discuss the police chief's recommendation to appoint Esteban Carrasco Jr. as a special traffic constable for a 3-year term effective immediately through June 30th, 2026. And entertain a motion to submit to town council for confirmation.
so move. Second,
Chief?
Mr. Chair, Southbridge resident, lifelong, most of us know him. He worked as an auxiliary for us for just about 7 years. He went to the Reserve Intermittent Academy. He's bilingual. And full disclosure, he's also the chaplain for the police and fire departments right now. But I think he'd be a good fit for the constable position.
Discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present.
I'm abstaining from this.
One abstention. Julian abstained. So the vote is 3-0, 1 abstention. Moving on to agenda item number 12, review and discuss the police chief's recommendation to appoint Jonathan Reich as a special traffic constable for 3-year term, effective immediately through June 30th, 2026. Entertain a motion to submit to council for confirmation.
So
So
moved.
moved.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, chief?
Mr. Chair, Southbridge High School graduate, a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He's a retired police officer from Massport. He worked in Holland as a chief. He worked in Spencer. He worked at the House of Corrections. Extremely well qualified individual to have in the community working as a constable.
Discussion? No discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Moving on to 13, review and discuss the police chief's recommendation to appoint Alex Rodriguez as a special traffic constable for the 3-year term, effective immediately through June 30th, 2026, and entertain a motion to submit to town council for confirmation.
So moved. Second.
Chief?
Mr. Rodriguez worked in our state prison system for more than 20 years. He's got a public safety background. He's bilingual. He retired in January. He's in outstanding shape, and he's just looking to work in retirement, and it'd be great to have someone with his skills on the streets working in our community. Highly recommend him.
Discussion? No discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Moving on to 14, review and discuss the police chief's recommendation to appoint Lucas Thomas as a special traffic constable for the 3-year term, effective immediately through June 30th, 2026. Let's see a motion to submit to town council for confirmation.
So moved.
Second.
Chief?
Mr. Thomas, another Southbridge resident, born and raised, currently works security at the hospital, but he's much more than that. He worked in the Connecticut Supermax prison system for more than 23 years. He is a SWAT guy. He does all their training. He does some of our training. He's an outstanding candidate, very well qualified. I highly recommend him.
Discussion? No discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Moving on to 15, review and discuss police chief transfer request for $25,000 from account 001210-511-000 salary account to salary account 001210-515100 sick leave to cover the additional cost of sick leave by officers and dispatchers for the remainder fiscal year of this fiscal year. Entertain a motion to recommend the council to approve the transfer.
So moved.
Second.
Chief?
If I could, sick leave every year. I'm in here doing transfers as we get to this time of the year. I would say this one kind of came up unexpectedly. We've got an officer that got injured off duty that's going to be out several weeks that I just found out about. We also have a dispatcher out on a medical leave, Family Medical Leave Act, for I don't know how long. We're still working on that. So these costs could not have been foreseen or budgeted for. And I would say that this transfer should get us to the promised land of June 30th. I hope that is what the case, but we'll see.
Any discussion?
Does this cover the overtime that you required to, everything associated with the sick leave?
Sick leave, yes, sick leave is, if you call it sick, we cover it from this account.
So
It's different than overtime.
Okay.
It's a separate, so we can break it
So is that
out.
gonna be enough money? You still got 3 months left.
Yeah, because I looked at, over the last, through you, Mr. Chair, not to run on, but I looked at the last 3 fiscal years, and that number, if this is approved, gets us to about what we used the last 3 fiscal years. So just in the research, if history's any indication, we should be okay.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Moving on to 16, review and discuss the police department transfer request of $3,200 from account 001210-511-000 salary to account 001210-519300 tuition to cover the cost associated with the tuition for an additional candidate to attend the April Police Academy. Entertain a motion to recommend the council for the transfer.
So moved. Second.
Chief?
Mr. Chair, again, this could not have been budgeted for. I did not realize we were gonna lose a couple of officers this year. I couldn't predict it. Tuition actually went up to $3,200. It used to be $3,000. So this essentially would cover the cost, not to put the cart before the horse, but if Mr. Desroches is approved by council next week, this would cover the cost to send him to that academy.
Discussion? No discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Moving on to 17, review and discuss the police department transfer of $5,000 from account 001210-518100 witness to account number 10530000, Specialized Services Professional, to cover the cost associated with the pending administration of the Civil Service Assessment Center for the promotion of 2 sergeants to the rank of lieutenant. Entertain a motion to recommend the council to approve the transfer.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second, chief?
Again, Mr. Chair, this is about, the cost, and I don't know, it will be between $6,000 and $6,500, but what we have in the account now, specialized services, this transfer should be enough to get us through to June 30th.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Moving on to agenda item number 18. Review and discuss the Med Project LLC grant in the amount of $1,300 for the purpose of supporting law enforcement agencies in the collection and disposal of unwarranted medicine, and entertain a motion to vote to recommend the council vote to accept that $1,300 grant.
So moved. Second.
Chief?
Mr. Chair, that's exactly what it sounds like. We take in medicine and medications in the community. We have a drop box in our lobby, and we get to empty it. This covers the cost to empty and destroy it. We burn it in an incinerator. We have to do that several times a year, and this just covers the cost. And this is probably our 4th or 5th year with this grant, just for renewal.
Discussion. No discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 19, review and discuss the town council waiving all permit fees associated with the fire station project. Entertain a motion to recommend the council to waive all permit fees associated with the fire station project.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second, chief?
Mr. Chairman, through you. So, with the project, we have some benchmarks coming up, one of those being the possible quick demolition of 129 Worcester Street. With that, there comes permit fees, permit applications, and then obviously as the project moves on, there will be many more, and we're looking for the council to waive those permit fees so that we're not essentially charging ourselves. As far as estimates are concerned, all of these are estimates because until we actually bid the project out, whether it be for the demolition of 129 Worcester Street or for the fire station itself, when it goes out to bid for the whole project, we wouldn't know what the actual permit estimates would be until we have those dollar figures. Right now, based on hard construction cost estimate at $21,500,000, the architect held a line item for 1.5% as permitting fees. So you do the math on that, it's about $323,000 is what their estimate would be. Based on, I did reach out to the inspections department. I did not get a full answer back from them, but going on what's on the website, the building permit alone would be $9 per thousand, and if you use that same math calculation, it comes out to about $194,000 would be the building permit alone. There's permits for curb cuts, connecting to water and sewer, demolition, electrical, plumbing, all those things. So until we would have the complete project costs, we don't know what the numbers will be, but we're looking for the
But their
council to
line
waive
item
it.
was 300,000 that was put in there?
Their estimate is 1.5%, and with right now's numbers, that's 323,662.
Sounds good. Discussion.
So that budget that's been floating around at the fire building committee, this would actually come off that bottom line, right? It's built in there now.
So the architect has listed it as waived for the last several opinions of probable cost. So they were running with the assumption that the town would waive the fees.
Okay.
It happens in most projects.
And we don't like the way, I don't know the way permits work, but like the town isn't going to have to owe the state any money or whatever that this would have normally paid for.
Not that we were aware of.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Council Dow?
I came to church with you. I'm not sure if the way written correct what I'm thinking. Let's bring it up with all the permit, any permit necessary for that project should be waived. Like this, you don't have to come back every time for any permit.
That's the intent of what's gonna
That's what
happen.
it says.
This is waiving all permit fees.
Yep.
But
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you for your time.
All those in favor?
Thank you, chief.
Opposed? Unanimous.